Good evening and welcome to our entertainment panel this evening. My name is Marna Redding. I'm the Director of Alumni and Parent Engagement at Union College. We're thrilled to have all of you with us this evening. Before we get started, I just want to thank Julie Greifer-Swiler, class of 79. She's a member of our Board of Trustees and General Counsel for Sony. So thanks to her for this space. She's not with us this evening. But just a brief round of applause for Julie, because without her, we wouldn't have this great space this evening. So on to the program, I'd like to introduce Jim de Seve, who's traveled down from Schenectady to be with us today. Jim is an award-winning filmmaker and Union's filmmaker-in-residence, part of the Film Studies Department. His credits include Tying the Knot, winner of 11 festival awards, and described in Stephen Holden's New York Times review as wrenching and skillful. Thank you, Jim, for being with us this evening, and thank you to our panelists who will introduce themselves in a minute. So I hand it over to Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Marna. So I'm going to just kind of give brief introductions of everyone. There is a sheet outside that should have the full bios. If you didn't get that now, you can get it on your way out. Sitting to my right is Hélène Dufries. Did I say it right? Kind of. And she is the Chief Talent Officer at MRY, and is focused on translating MRY's business strategy into recruitment efforts that attract and retain the top talent for the agency. Correct. Thank you. That was right there. And then we have Amy Silverman, who is a supervisor and producer for Entertainment Tonight and The Insider. And all the way in the end is Jack Cole, who's a writer, director, and showrunner for Orange Soda Productions, which is your company.
New company.
Yeah. And Jack has been a writer, director, and showrunner of unscripted hits like TLC's Breaking Amish and Breaking the Faith, and also Discovery Channel's Amish and Mafia. So check that out. And just an update, is Peter still there? He's not. Okay, so we did have Peter Tarshish on the list, but he's not able to. But his seat is here.
He'll hop in when he's here.
So let's start. Maybe we can just go down the line, and you guys can give us a brief summary of your trip from Union College to where you are today.
Okay, so I'll start. I'm the oldest one on the panel, so it might take a while. My journey. So my name is Helene DeVries, but we were chatting earlier about if you're French and you call me Hélène DeVries, it's all very sexy, so that's what we went with. So I have been with MRY, which is a digital ad agency. We were founded in 2002. I joined in 2011. We are originally known as Mr. Youth. And then as an agency, we were right at the right place at the right time. We were doing college marketing programs. I remember back at Union, someone was trying to get me to sign up for Amex. It was very primitive then. Now, especially on larger campuses, they're very broad programs of college marketing and ambassadors and things of that nature. And that's what originally Mr. Youth did. They were in the right place at the right time when the social media world exploded. And so clients started coming to them to say, how can I reach out to a younger demo? And Matt Britton, the CEO, he really tapped into social media and how you could use that to reach out to consumers. And consumers that use social media are no longer just youth. So I just wanted to explain, so we became MRY just so that we weren't stuck in this youth bucket. But I would say that the focus of the agency is not entertainment per se, but I'm glad to be on the panel. It's about reaching consumers that have a young mindset, so are using all these types of technologies that all consumers are using, but clients don't know how to reach them. Okay, now, how did I get here? It's quite the journey. I was a political science and psychology major. I thought I was actually going to go to DC and do something in the political science arena, had a little ankle, and when I came back to campus, my senior year, I took the closest course I could in the liberal arts curriculum at that time, and I don't know if things have changed, and it was called Psychology of Advertising. And that got me really excited about advertising, and I went and I did a internship while I was a senior during the winter break, and lo and behold, I was focused in my spring term senior year getting a job in advertising, and lo and behold, I did. I joined an ad agency right out of school called DMB&B. Sadly, it's defunct. And I rode that wave for a while. I switched into sports marketing, which was awesome. I just had a passion for it, and again, we didn't have courses at Union that taught you how to be a sports marketer. Nobody taught you how to be in advertising. But I found these passions, and I went after them. And then I broke away from all of that, and I decided that I loved helping people. This is really long, you can stop me. But I loved helping people find what they were passionate in. And I went myself to see an executive search firm, a recruiter, to help me figure out what my next job was going to be. And as I sat across the table from them, they said, why don't you do this for a living? So I pivoted again, and I became an executive search person. I worked for a marketing services global executive search firm that was called Gunderson Partners. One of my clients, because I decided to focus on the marketing services arena, was an agency that was just starting called Mr. Youth. I had met them and I said, you guys need talent, I'm going to help you find talent, and I did. And fast forward another 10 years, they called me and said, we're exploding, we need people to come in-house and help us bring in great talent, can you do that? So it was a lot of relationship building that got me to here.
Very cool.
That was very long.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening. I can't explain it because it's not.
Amy Silverman, how did you get to where you are?
So I graduated in 2004, and I was a political science major as well. And I think when I was applying to schools, like there was a part of me that was interested in communications, maybe broadcast journalism. I wasn't totally sure. And so my parents really encouraged me, and after visiting Union, to pursue a liberal arts education because I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and nor should you have to feel like you need to know what you want to do. So, so after graduating at Union, like I was really interested in writing. I worked at the Writing Center, and I actually my thesis had a bit of a television theme. I was a poli-sci major, but my thesis was about how the working class were portrayed on popular television sitcoms through the years. So maybe that was that's sort of the direction I was headed in terms of finding a bigger interest in television. So when I graduated, I really wanted to pursue something I thought in television, and I did. I networked a little bit and had met with a bunch of people. I also met with people in publishing, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to go sort of the magazine route and be in the editorial side of things. I wasn't entirely sure, and I had taken a bunch of meetings that were really just informational upon graduating, and one of those meetings I had taken with the HR department at MSNBC, and it just so happened that the day that I was there was a primetime news show on at the time called Deborah Norville Tonight, and the executive producer of the show was looking for an assistant, like a very entry-level, straight-out-of-college position. And so it was a combination of being in the right place at the right time and having I remember at the time thinking I really didn't want to go. At the time, MSNBC was in Secaucus, New Jersey, and I thought, like, I really don't want to make the trip out to New Jersey, and just to take this meeting that's not going to lead to anything, and that couldn't have been further from the truth. So I went into the meeting, and like shortly later that day, that same time after meeting with HR, I went with the executive producer of the show, and he said, like, can you start Monday? At the time I was leaving to go work at Good Morning America, and I said, great. Like, I didn't know what it meant, I didn't know what the job entailed, and it was a combination. The show was a combination of entertainment news and hard news, and I was there for about 8 months, and then somebody else I had met with passed my resume on to I work in Entertainment Tonight, and it's a sister show, The Insider Now. And we have a satellite office, our New York bureau. We're obviously based in Los Angeles, not based here in New York in our bureau. And they were looking, had done a spin-off show now known as The Insider, and we're looking to sort of find more production assistants that could join the shows. So someone had held on to my resume who I didn't even really know, or someone who I met with had held on to it, passed it on to somebody I didn't know at The Insider and ET, and called me in for an interview. And after spending some time at MSNBC, I really started to get a taste for the television world and production, and knew I wanted to stay in production, but knew that I really wanted to be more on the entertainment news side of things and not on the hard news side of things. Like there were weekends we would be called in, the whole staff, to like work on blizzard coverage, and I knew like that was a, sort of where my passion was. So I had received a call, and I knew I was going to be, working in meteorology. So I got a phone call. Someone had passed my resume on to somebody else and was looking for another entry-level position at Entertainment Tonight and sister show The Insider for a production assistant. And at the time, and this was, I've been doing the shows for 10 years, at the time it was making a lateral move, that I was taking a pay cut, I wasn't going to have health insurance at the time, all these crazy cuts, but I really knew that I wanted to make the sacrifice because I wanted to get my foot in the door in the world of entertainment. So I was willing to do it, and it was like the right time to do it. It was, young, I didn't have a family, and it was the right time to kind of make that move and sacrifice the pay cut and everything else to make the move over to these shows. So now I've been there for 10 years, which is a crazy long time to me. Yes, so the good thing about the shows that in our office is that I've been able to work my way up. I was a production assistant when I started, and now I'm a supervising producer, and with, being in our satellite office, we've been able to take on a ton of responsibility because we have a really small operation, but New York's the #1 market, and a lot comes out of our office, and a lot happens in New York in terms of entertainment news, and that's where I've been ever since.
So we're learning that breaking your ankle and going to Secaucus can be good things for you. Jekyll, what is your story?
Yeah, so I was always a storyteller, and I was an English major at Union, and it was definitely a situation where very similar to these stories as well. Like Union didn't have exactly I don't know exactly what my passion sort of took over for TV. I was writing in middle school and high school. I was sort of always liking the idea of writing short stories and stuff like that. But once I got to college, any sort of budding passion I had at Union was seized and grabbed onto. I mean, I was literally I had a few professors who were just really amazing. Some of the people in the English department who, in their own passion, sort of were putting together. I had this professor, Hugh Jenkins, who was just a really great guy, and he was like, I really want to put together something around film. I want to do something, let's just do a class about the Coen brothers, and let's just go with that, right? There's all these great sort of narrative structure things with the Coen brothers, where they are, sort of doing, they're taking the Odyssey and turning it into Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and they're sort of playing off the noir genres of the 50s and sort of going with that. And so I was like, wow, okay, Union was great, and I had a lot of fun there, but it was right in those moments where it was like, okay, these people are sort of similar passion, and all of a sudden it's like my professors are individuals who have the same ideas. So we just sort of went from there, and it was almost sort of a collaborative experience in that way. My junior, senior year, I did my thesis was short stories. My story after college, I got into MTV. I was with MTV off and on for a period of probably, 7 years, something like that. Started off, my first ever interview. The second day I was there, I sit down in front of this. There's a camera, and I'm going to be operating with green screen. And there's a guy who's going to come sit down. His name's John Legend. He's he's a nobody. He just graduated from the University of Pennsylvania a couple of years ago. And he's just like this. And I remember having to transcribe John Legend's interview the next day as a production assistant, 18 pages of verbose, awesome intellectual stuff. And I was like, I hope this guy never succeeds. That's not true. But anyway, from there, it's sort of been my story is a lot different than these guys, just in that I've probably worked at 10 different companies. It's just sort of the nature of the business that I work in, where it's you have to, for sort of unscripted documentary, docu-series type stuff, like, some of these Amish shows. And then I worked at MTV's Made, Wife Swap. I sort of worked my way through some of those ideas, some of those shows. Just sort of got a knack for taking the storytelling that I'd already done and learning how to direct a little bit. I can thank, the Greek scene at Union for helping me sort of engage with people on set and sort of, figure out how to, get, I don't know, it's sort of manipulative. You sort of do a lot of, pushing and prodding as a director, but, that was sort of, it's been really good. And I've been able to find, I think the things I learned at Union to get to this place was just sort of like, understanding sort of self-motivation, sort of the ways of sort of finding your own path and finding what interests you and going forward with it. And most recently, in the last 6 months or so, it's been based mostly around having a 1-year-old daughter. But more than that, or not more than that, but in addition, trying to start my own company and pitching my own TV shows and stuff like that, sort of along the same vein of unscripted stuff and doing a little scripted stuff as well with a collaborator. So yeah, that's I don't know, sort of the path from there to here.
No broken bones, no New Jersey.
One minor scar, I think, on my knee from skiing, but not really thinking of the TV. Yeah.
So Hildy, and I apologize for sexifying you. Can you tell us, and Amy, can you tell us, and Jackie touched on this, how Union helped to prepare you on your paths?
And I've thought about this a lot because in my role I often am interviewing students coming out of school and what are the differences. And I think for me, looking back and in many ways I wish I had even taken more advantage of what was available on campus. But the fact that it is a small community and you can get to know, like I watched you, hug people that came in here today, and it's, your students, and it's just an environment that is actually really amazing. I mean, students choose to go to Union, versus Union choosing thousands and hundreds of thousands of students. It's people that really want to be there, and I think that's what's so cool about it. So for me, it was just, I think, just having exposure to so many people, small class sizes, getting to exchange ideas, but in a very collaborative way. It was never, that you were siloed. And I take that with me every day, and I use those experiences. It's not as much what I learned in those classes, which were valuable pieces of information, but they don't help me literally do my job. It's how to communicate with people that I learned the most at Union.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that Union definitely having a really small, intimate campus, I mean, it's a special thing even now being an alumni. You meet somebody who went to Union and you feel like you sort of have like this special bond or connection, and like you connect with another not knowing them at all, but it's like, oh, you went to Union, I went to Union too, and you kind of feel that camaraderie. And I think that just having gone to a small school where, certainly like, right, when I was learning a political science class or a history class, isn't something that I use in my day-to-day job, but really like the environment of the classrooms and the students on campus, and honestly the connection with the professors, and really just that whole campus life at Union really like lends itself to a lot of things you do in life, especially at work. And that's why I think I'm so grateful that I didn't choose, maybe a lot of people might say, oh, I really want to go to communication school at Syracuse, which is a phenomenal school and super competitive. I just think that having not set myself up to, or put myself in a particular category and choosing a liberal arts education, it really lent itself to exposing myself to all different kinds of classes and things I wouldn't have otherwise chosen, and other people with different interests and similar interests, and that's really, something I think about all the time at work and in a working environment and working with my with coworkers. It's something that, really thankful for having had that experience at Union.
There's a recent article in Forbes about Fortune 5 companies now actually valuing the liberal arts degree, which goes against some of the general commentary that's out there.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to hear that's worked for you guys in your careers.
Yeah.
Jack, did you have anything else to add to what you said before?
No, I couldn't agree more. I think I saw something similar on a TED Talk the other day about a woman who sort of referred to the common, sort of millennial phenomenon, but it's the multi-potentialite is what she called it, which is like just the idea that maybe we don't all know our calling, and maybe our calling will change a number of different times. And they used to call it being a Renaissance woman. But ultimately, I think we all sort of had that. We went to liberal arts school looking for a meaningful experience, and we all got it at Union for sure. And I think the connections that we made there, again, more on a personal level, not even like, oh, look at I know so and so, and they're gonna give me a job everywhere. And it's not even so much like that. It's just like the personal connections with the professors and the people you meet and people you become really good friends with. That really matters the most. Sort of fosters. You all sort of work together to just want to go forward. And that sounds kind of abstract, but like all my friends in my fraternity were like, there was this underlying tone of like, yeah, sure, we want to go party, but we also want to succeed a lot and have, really sort of enjoy looking at one another going, we've all sort of done it, we've all sort of made it, it's fun.
Nice. I think that everyone felt that when just coming to the room tonight, as you mentioned, there's a good vibe. I think unique people really do like each other. And teaching there, I can't think of a better place to teach, honestly. So let's turn to, I know there's people in the room here who may be interested in getting into or are in the entertainment world, but maybe you're thinking about shifting their careers a little bit. Can you guys offer any advice on either entry or once you're in, modulating your career to get to where you want to be? And this is over to you.
It's what I do every day, so I could talk for a long time. As you saw already. So I'll try to, I'm happy to chat with people individually after if you want to actually talk about this. And I think, Amy, you made a really solid point. When I was talking about the entry-level candidates, I do see students that have come out of schools, large schools that have specific programs, and let's talk about, the advertising or communication school. And they come in with a, portfolio of the work they have done, and they say, drop me in today, I can be your account executive or your project manager or your copywriter. And I look at them and I'm like, okay, that's good. And then I look at somebody that's gone to a liberal arts school and I can talk to them, we can talk a little bit more about philosophy or political science or something else that they did. And what I'm looking for in them, I think you learn so much on the job that you can't possibly always go to school and just learn what you're going to do next. You don't really know. I mean, a lot of people grow up and think I'm going to be a doctor, but be that as it may, I think that when I speak to students and they show a way of speaking and looking somebody in the eye and how they've taken on leadership roles, whatever it was, maybe they just were a dog walker in the summer and they figured out how to, take on more clients and sub out some of the work. It's just interesting things like that, and I think you find that specifically in people that have been in the Union College environment because they're used to trying to figure out how to do things. We're on trimesters, we're off cycle. We have to figure out how to get these internships that aren't in sync with when other companies are hiring. So on the entry-level stuff, I think it's about taking leadership roles and being able to talk about why you did what you did. And I think it's the same way when you're doing a career shift, and I had almost 3 of them, is figuring out what it is you want to do next and laser focus on it and figure out what makes you the right candidate for that. When I went from advertising to sports marketing, I talked about all the things I knew in advertising that was going to help sports marketing go to the next level. You just have to figure it out. And you don't have to know everything, but you have to show what you're trying to get to. And it's very easy, and I can talk in generalities, but you just have to know what you're doing and know why you're doing it and ask people to help you along the way, have a conversation about it, not necessarily a job, but a conversation about it, and keep taking that information and use it to keep moving, which I think is something that these guys have done as well.
Do you guys have anything to add?
I think just one thing is that, and when I made the change early on and I wasn't sure it was the right move, I think, and this is something I've learned and I'm still experiencing at my job today, is that I think that you can't just let a job description define what your job role is. I think you have to I think you have to be willing to take on and do anything that doesn't fit into what your job description is, and that has a lot to do with, changing a career path or looking, another avenue that your skills might match up with a different type of position. And I think that, I tried to take on different things and expose myself to different things and ask questions and try to see what other people in my company did that maybe would lend itself to something I would want to do or that I could help them out with. And I think not really, never just doing what someone said was within my job and doing other things that weren't in that description, helped me figure out what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. And it's still something I do today. It's something that maybe doesn't really, something I handle on a day-to-day basis that I'm willing to take on for the better of the show or for my job or to help somebody, whatever it is. And I think that's just something important to keep in mind.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and I think the flexibility, the adaptability, regardless of if you're entry level, if you're making a change, which I've also done quite a bit. I think the key is really just that's something that Union College prepares you for, and not to compare like Union versus similar to Syracuse, like Newhouse or something like that, or like Ithaca, which sort of provides a similar type of student, type of sort of prepared professional individual. A lot of the leaders, a lot of the quote unquote leaders in our industry, and especially in my very freelance industry, where it's all sort of everyone's kind of a leader because you have to go get the next job, you have to go, you're interviewing all the time, you're leading new casts all the time, you're always hopping into new crews of 5 camera guys, et cetera, et cetera. Union College will prepare you for that. It's not necessarily. I mean, you find a lot of like sort of the people who went to college like looking for a special. At least in my role in the industry, like the people who sort of looking for like a specialization or a specialty or whatever. They're probably in that place somewhere. I don't want to say the people that went to Tisch, NYU aren't like doing well because I don't see them. Of course they are. They're probably doing something in the film industry with grip or like sound design or something like that. I think at least the role that I've chosen and the role that I've gone along, I've been able to successfully sort of figure out ways to foster the sort of the bevy of skills that we got at Union or got sort of in life from that kind of mindset. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I had a student came to me the other day and said, I really want to get into film, and I hate to break it to you, but I want to go to a school with a bigger film program. I said, you can do that. You can go to NYU and you can get into the giant meat grinder and you'll get spit out. And I invite you to investigate that. But if you stay at Union, you will have a wide array of professors that you can make really personal connections with. And you can develop really good projects and get a lot of great feedback, and you're not going to get that at NYU. And NYU, it's a great program for what it is, but you have to be mindful of what it is. Let's talk a little more specifically. What are some tips that you can give people to, once they've decided they want to start making that move or making that shift, specific things they can do and ways that they might be able to make themselves more remarkable?
Well, I guess.
Be nice.
Yeah, well, I was going to say be nice. I was going to say.
You want to hire people that want to work with.
Yeah. There's that. There's, it's not knowing, it's how to make connections. I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but it's networking. I mean, I'm hoping to come out of this discussion having talked to the majority of you in here. It's like taking advantage of the different opportunities that are in front of you and using them. So that's, it's hard to do. It's, reaching out. I mean, there's so many different ways. You can follow somebody on Twitter. You can stalk them on LinkedIn and, reach out to them. There's lots of different ways, but you gotta, reach out to people and ask if you can buy them a cup of coffee and try to pick their brain about how you can make the next move. How did they get to where they are? And all of that sort of groundwork. You have to lay a lot of groundwork in order for something to really pop, because there are so many people out there, but you can cannot imagine how many people forget little things, like just thanking somebody for having a cup of coffee with them. You know, and those things, when you are nice, stand out and people want to help. I think, I forget if we were talking about this, but you also have to be direct about what you're asking help for. It's not just, I want to make a career change. It's, I want to do X. Can you help me? Because it's very hard to ask the person on the other end to be the brainstormer for you when they have a lot of other things they have going on. So you have to be specific about what you're trying to do in order to get somebody to give you something back. And then offer up anything you can give to them. You know, whatever that might be. So, I don't know, those are a couple things.
I think to pick up on what you said too, very important not to make a meeting with somebody about talking about yourself, but to really ask people, and people will be receptive if you ask them, how did you get to be where you are? Can you tell me what your story is? And they will talk and be very appreciative for that question. So, what do you guys think? Any specific?
No, I think that's true. Networking is huge, and I think Union has tons of alumni that have gone on to do really interesting and smart and successful creative things, and so I think that that's a whole community that you can reach out to and talk to, and I'm sure that everyone's more than willing to meet with you and that Union connection. I think being nice and being, and being willing to kind of maintain a relationship and stay in touch, and relationships, like in my job and any job really, are so important. I mean, I find that this entertainment business is really small, and your paths cross with people over and over and over again. And having been at the same job 10 years, I see people that I work with all the time that have moved on to different areas, and I continue to still work with them, but just in different capacities. So I think that forming relationships and networking and staying in touch with people and being open-minded, are all really important, and also being informed. I think a lot of times people sometimes will reach out, want to take a meeting, or even we have interns who come in and will interview for a position with us, and they're not necessarily really familiar with our shows. So I think that if you're going to take somebody's time and you're going to meet with them, know who hosts that show and know what kind of stories they're covering on the night before or that earlier that week, and just be informed, because I think to go in and take up somebody's time but not really know maybe their background a little bit, because like you said, you can really stalk anybody online and find out what they do from a social media profile or LinkedIn page. But also I think that you should know exactly, you should know what they do, what their job, not the ins and outs of it, but maybe like for example, who posts their show and the kinds of stories that they're covering that week, or maybe what was in the news that day that might fall into a celebrity category. So I think that's, you have to do your research too, and you have to sort of be informed before you ask people for their time.
Absolutely. No, and sort of kidding about not kidding about the sort of be nice thing, but the reality is that, I heard a panel, I was listening to a panel at one point where, one of the executives at FX was talking about how, a lot of people, people just love Vince Gilligan. They just think he's a great guy. So yeah, okay, great. He's bringing amazing products and putting together crazy ratings. But like at the end of the day, they also all want to sign him up because we like getting on the phone with the guy, once in a while. There's something to that. There's something to the fact that, especially in sort of the very freelance world that I'm in, you just have to. Yeah, it is a small world. You'll see everybody again. And you just have to be someone who's known as being, courteous, respectful, serious. Some people sort of look at the entertainment industry and go, oh, it's a lot of there's sort of a rebellious thing there, especially from Union, where all my friends are on Wall Street. I feel like there's this whole thing where it's like, I don't want to just knock Wall Street, and there's a lot of doctors and lawyers as well. Don't get me wrong, but the idea is that for me, I was kind of the rebel of the group, and I'm not a very rebellious dude, and so the whole thing there is but you have to, and there are a lot of kids who come out of some of these film schools and are like, I just want to make art, and you're like, well, listen, man, we're producing television. This is a business. Learn how to shake someone's hand. Let's be respectful. Let's be aware of that, and that's why. Whereas I've seen a lot of people go down on the bench, so to speak, and sort of have months off at a time, I've been able to stay sort of consistently, 10 years in the industry, working pretty regularly, because it's like, at the end of the day, I know how to, sort of do the liberal arts thing and sort of be appropriate. And so, Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to just being having the right reputation for that.
So that's kind of a great segue into the next question, which is, I'm sorry.
I want to extend something Amy said, because I love what you said about being informed. And I'll throw one more thing out that I coached my staff on for years when I was consulting for the media and entertainment industry, which is to read. There's so much free stuff that you can get online, newsletters, dailies. For the entertainment industry, we used to get Variety and Hollywood Reporter every day. In the media space, we're reading Ad Age, we're reading the ID, Smart Brief, Digiday, Ad Exchanger. All this stuff comes in every day. And what it does is two things. One is it keeps you informed about the industry, not just about the person, but about what's happening in the industry, what the big issues are. And so when you do want to reach out to somebody, or you do have that opportunity to shake someone's hand, the conversation, I think, as Colleen said, is not about you, or that you said, it's not about me, it's about my knowledge of something in the industry that you probably care about. And that conversation is going to be the one that they're going to remember, and they're going to want to say, I want that woman or that man to come back and talk to me.
Well, you just made a great segue to the next question.
I'm glad I throw that in there for you. I like it, because that's emotional moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Strong segue.
Under the chair. But it is a great segue because keeping up on what's happening in the industry is incredibly important. That's great ideas for maintaining that kind of knowledge set. How do you guys stay up on what the current trends are? And what are the current trends? Where are we headed in the entertainment industry?
I wish I knew.
I can go first.
Okay, check.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I had a conversation with someone about this exact same thing today, and it kind of keeps me up at night, especially trying to run my own business, trying to get my own business going, and trying to develop things. And I have a sister who's 10 years younger than me. I try to pick her brain a little bit. I try to keep. I don't have a Snapchat account. I'm kind of screwed there. So I mean, I think the key is that I said to this woman today, I said, how are we going to monetize the media industry? How is the music industry going to figure out? How is the TV industry going to figure out? How are we going to figure out how you appropriately put a dollar amount on a story, or especially probably more so in my realm as opposed to yours, where you're still a big network, so it's like network. I mean, you're always going to have your built-in viewer, hopefully, not going to.
No. Yeah,
You have competitors for sure. But I mean, and that's the key. And she said that was the $1 billion question. She was like, "That's the $1 billion question, isn't it?" And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, just speaking for the world that I work in, we still have those same kind of issues that you face, because the traditional TV viewer is changing. So people get their news in all different ways. People are getting their news on Twitter and people's, any kind of form of social media. And in our world, celebrities are breaking their own news, let's say on their Instagram feed or whatever it is. So for us, it's really and I haven't been there a long time and seeing how it changes, the traditional TV viewer, they're getting their news, throughout the whole day. So at 7:30 when we air, ET airs at 7:30 in New York, for example, that news, chances are people have heard what happened. There's no real breaking news at that time necessarily. They've heard what's happened during the day. So it's how are we going to change the content to bring new information, and what new interviews are we going to have to make it special or exclusive that people won't have heard? A news story, a different way of telling the story at that time, since people have gotten their news in very different ways. And the other side of it that's a change that we're dealing with is obviously how important online is. And for my role has changed, because typically my job is providing content for the show, but now it's also meant providing content for our sites, because that's hugely important. And now we value, those are viewers, that we consider those viewers as well. So across all of our digital platforms, that's what we consider to be viewers. So it's sort of, keeping your audience, growing an audience, and also how you're covering news in really different ways. So it's been interesting, but it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, in the ad industry, everybody is covering everybody else's ground. You used to have traditional agencies and production shops and, all sorts of different types of agencies, and they each stayed in their lane, and now it's all one big blur, and it's all to do with distributing content. It's the content right now that's king, and we're all about producing content and then getting it out into the channels that everybody can see. And it's less about the mass demographic of people with their eyeballs on a television screen. It's really about, we had a client, a very traditional client, J&J, Visine, a very, a product that everybody seems to know about, but yet Visine wasn't really doing any interesting business. And we helped them change the way they were reaching consumers by putting specific ads about like, hey, you're binge watching. All you're doing is binge watching, Orange is the New Black. And so we targeted small little spots on Netflix, on all the different forms of media where people are consuming that way. So it's about changing the media, the entertainment industry, the media industry, the advertising industry. It's changing rapidly because of the way consumers are consuming their media.
And I'm trying to stay, that being said, I'm the content being king, whatever, I'm trying to, whereas I may have in the past thought about how to deliver the content, that kind of thing, I'm staying in the content world and just being thankful at least that I sort of, could tell stories and do that kind of thing, and hopefully just try to keep my niche over there, because it's a scary world right now. The lanes are coming together, and you, again, that's why I guess you gotta be friendly with everybody, just try to get jobs when this market gets all crazy, you know what I mean?
And to your point, you did ask at the beginning, how do you stay current? I'm probably the only one, I look around in my Metro North car every morning and I'm the only one still opening a newspaper, but I really I like to do that, but I'm also, I subscribe to a lot of different, different publications, and I'm following different companies on Twitter, making sure that I'm just getting bursts. It can be very distracting, so you have to kind of, keep yourself in check. So I do a real morning thing, a midday, and an afternoon. But that's how I stay up.
So everybody remember when you're binge watching, get a bottle of Visine.
It's not about running through the sunflowers and you've got hay fever, and that's why you need it. It's a totally different reason.
So why don't we open up the floor to questions? There must be some questions out there.
Not all at once.
Yes.
I don't want to dominate because I already said something, but if nobody's asking a question, I'll ask. So we've got television, not that I'm not interested in film and production, but I'm really curious right between the two of you guys. Television and media sit next to each other. And what we're seeing in the industry is a convergence of all sorts of media viewing at the same time that the industry is trying to figure out how to keep the advertising load and the advertising dollars viewable, not blocked. So everyone's been following what's going on, the ad blocking, and a way to make money on content. I'd sort of be curious with the two of you guys, a little bit talking about your desire to monetize your content, your company's content, your desire to place advertising in their content, and how that dynamic is changing as consumers move to different places.
I can speak for our shows in the sense that, and I don't work on this type of content in our show. I'm certainly familiar with it. There are certain paid integrations that we do. Whether it's we really try to shy away from pushing. Obviously, a lot of the times we are landing an interview with somebody or securing something exclusively because somebody's promoting something, right? So when it's product heavy, we really, unless the content outweighs that promotion, we really try to shy away from doing that kind of just straightforward promotional product placement or whatever it is, because there are plenty of companies that do spend tons of money with our shows to do paid integrations that satisfy both content and, and pay. Is that what you're asking, or?
Well, I'm thinking about it just from the dynamic of what's happening in this industry, so that this group in the room here is thinking about this industry and thinking about what's the future look like in a space that seems to be transforming itself.
It's also technology. I think everyone listening, your guess at this point is as good as, I'm saying this also from having worked with a number of different networks and watching the way they've all sort of approached the changing marketplace. Cable television took a huge hit this past year. It got demolished, and that's obviously because of streaming, Hulu, Netflix, and then the news industry. Obviously, you got Twitter, you got things that it's all about getting it to you as quickly as possible, giving you the choice to sort of do whatever you want to do, however you want to view it, etc. So at that point, unfortunately, I will tell you from having sort of had this inside, view in some of the bigger, some of these, bigger offices, I don't think they know, and I don't know. I think the key here is to be adaptable and to be flexible. I think you got to be ready for what's going to happen, whatever is going to come, and I don't know if vines are going to take over the world. I don't know if Periscope's going to be the big thing. All I know is when we sort of figure out what the next cable is, and maybe there won't even be a next cable. Maybe there won't be a next maybe there won't be a next wave of streaming. I mean, maybe 30 years from now we're going to be talking. 30 years from now we'll be saying, "Oh, Netflix, man, I can't do that on Netflix." But that's not likely. It's not likely the way the technology's changed over the last 10 years. So I know it's not a great answer, but it is what it is from what I can see.
Yeah, I had a dream the other night that my students came to class while wearing the Oculus Rift. And that was the new thing, everyone's texting all the time, which drives you crazy. So now they have this, if you guys don't know, the Oculus Rift is this technology that was purchased by Facebook for $1 billion about a year and a half ago.
VR, virtual
reality headset. So you strap this thing on and it's amazing for gaming. You feel like you're in the environment.
And they're doing that. They're filming some things in virtual reality these days. I think something I want to say, I don't know if it's Senate or someone recently, I don't know if it's the Pope or the Senate, I get my news a little mixed up, but the Pope, right, was showing a virtual reality film. And the good thing about virtual reality, again, another TED Talk. That's where I get all my stuff, TED Talk. I'm just going to steal it all. But they had a guy, a filmmaker, came on and was doing all these virtual reality things, and he was talking about sort of the real empathy you find when you go into an African classroom and film something in VR. You sort of sit there, and that's like a camera box basically. You sit there, and you can really feel like you were in that space, in that moment, in that time, and there's almost nothing like sort of second to that. And that is the best thing. Again, I don't know how realistic that's going to be, that we're all going to be sort of doing that in 3 years, 5 years. There's a lot of technologies that sort of seemed really sexy at the time and probably aren't even that great. I mean, look at the iWatch, right, or the Google Glass. I mean, these are things that, again, are sort of faddish, but seem to be who cares, Yeah.
We'll see in 5 years.
There's some trends sort of playing as part of the industry for advertising, things like privacy concepts. Europe seems to be leading on this, what data can be collected, used, shared. For the content area, the concept of copyright alive or dead, is all content free? Should it all be free? What should you pay for? An understanding that without copyright, nobody might create stuff because they don't own anything, but yet that doesn't seem to stop some of these movements. Just your comments on how you think these large swirling forces might affect the next 5 or 10 years of what you see in your industry.
I mean, I don't know exactly how to answer that, although I'll say that at MRY we have legal counsel literally sitting with us every day because we are posting on behalf of clients, and we have to actually run things through them constantly. So I'm not sure what the impact is of all the other entertainment broader issues on copyrights are, but I do know that just from our standpoint, we're really keeping them, we actually scope them into our work. So that's how they're paid by the clients, because they know how valuable it is to make sure that we're not doing any infringement. And anytime we ask all of our employees, hey, we're doing this great thing with such and such a client, share it. We always have to hashtag client because we can't, not seem like we're just promoting something when we actually developed it. So, just from my little world, it's keeping somebody who has, the legal hat on with us at all times. But I don't know if that helps you with the overall trend.
So that's a trend, spending more time with lawyers.
So we probably have time for one more.
Entertainment laws, the answer.
Entertainment laws, the answer. Time for one more question if anybody has one. And there will be a reception afterwards right back there when we finish. Any last comments anyone would like to make?
I mean, I love coming here and chatting, and it's kind of, it's funny to be on the panel and not know what everybody really wants to get out of the panel. So, and it's a small enough group, that, again, if you want to chat after, or you just want my card and you'll talk to me later, that's great. But if you have specific questions about career changes or things like that, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, same for me. I have to say, honestly, I haven't done the best job of keeping in touch with unions, so I was really happy to be a part of this and reconnect with the Alumni Relations Department. And I think it's a nice thing. I think it makes me feel nostalgic for what I felt when I was a student at Union, to have like this, you can have this kind of community and keep in touch with people outside, even 10 years later for me. So I think, I'd love to connect with anybody who wants to chat, and I think it's a nice thing, and I think it's a good thing to take advantage of for the school.
And yeah, I would say, the one thing, with all the sort of the changing world of technology and business and just the world in general, the one thing that's going to stick around is going to be entertainment. There's going to be a desire for storytelling and sort of, a place to sort of go and let your hair down and just sort of relax after a long day. So I mean, everyone who wants to get into it or wants to stay in it, please do. It's a great fun thing. It's life is short. So keep doing this.
So Jack Cole, Amy Silverman, and Helene.
Thank you so much, panel. Professor? I'm Matt Cohen, I'm class of 98, and I'm on the New York City Alumni Steering Committee, and one of the things that we do, we're put together these events. I have a couple of my colleagues here tonight, so Rob, Joe, Tess, and Jamie, could raise your hands, please. Please meet with any of us after and give us any ideas or any feedback you have. Any ideas, any feedback you have about tonight's event, about other events we've planned, other events that you'd like to see planned, because we're here to kind of entertain you guys and bring all of you together and have all the alum engaged. Just a couple of announcements. Please stay afterwards. We have some food and some soda and water, and of course some adult beverages. And a couple events coming up. We're going to have the holiday party. Date and location still to be determined, but assuming you get your emails from Alumni Relations, please stay tuned for that information. That's always one of our biggest events of the year in New York City, so please stay tuned for that. We will have a number of hockey viewings at our Union College Hockey Bar. The hockey team has started off well, being number 3 ranked BU this past Saturday, so please join us at those events. Next, I want to thank the 4 members of Alumni Relations, Marna, Violetta, Nick, and Terry for joining us tonight and, of course, making this event possible. Thank you for everything you do for Union College and for the New York City Alumni Group. And lastly, I'd like to, again, thank the panelists and our esteemed moderator for joining us this evening. Alumni Relations has brought some gifts that I'd like to hand out to you. And also, I just want to say another quick thanks. We do a lot of events. We have the hockey viewings. We have an event at the Cloisters every year. If you join it, you know how great it is. We have happy hours and holiday parties. And the events that we can actually center around alum that can join and draw this kind of a crowd. Really it makes our job as volunteers that much easier. So thank you so much for that. So thank you everyone for coming out tonight, and enjoy the food and the beverage, and we'll see you at the next event.